congratulations on your induction into the Impact Hall of Fame last month. How much did that night mean for you?
How do I explain it? It's like when you work so hard to achieve something and you achieve it,
Mm-hmm.
you almost feel like you've reached that ultimate goal.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden someone says, well, yeah, but we're not done yet. See, we want to honor you as one of the best to do it. And that's what it really says, really. It really says that, in your time and when you were doing it, you were one of the best to do it. And that will remain forever. So for me, that was just a really icing on the cake. You capture titles, you do all that stuff because that's your goal, to be the best. But then to be recognized by your peers, by the fans, by the media, as being remembered as one of the best during that time, that's got to be the ultimate.
And you got such a great message from Dwayne Johnson, who talked so much about how you helped him in his early career. When you were working with him early on, did you foresee kind of how big a superstar he'd become?
Well, when we first started out, both of us were still trying to find our identities of what we were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we got together and we started putting matches together and doing different things, the one thing I recognized with him was that he wasn't afraid, and that we could have the matches in which I felt comfortable with, which was the aggressive matches, the tough matches, where you weren't pulling punches or you weren't pulling chair shots and you weren't pulling slams, that you were just going in and just being aggressive. And so when we did our matches, I was very fortunate to have somebody like him that enjoyed the same kind of matches that I did, and that we were able to put on great matches because of that. But what it also did was that it solidified us as being great wrestlers, and that it helped our characters as we were moving up be genuinely tough guys. Even with his character kind of comic book elbow, people's elbow, he was still a tough guy on top of that. So it was a great mixture for him, and it really did him well as he started to move up those ranks very quickly. Even after I had left, he started moving up those ranks very quickly, because I think he had a great mixture between the mic, the entertainment value, but also the aggressive value also.
Mm-hmm. When you started out in your career, was there someone in wrestling that did that for you?
Yeah, I think Bret Hart did that with me. I think Bret Hart was, even though I only had a couple matches with him, but behind the scenes, he was very influential on what my character was going to be. Even though I came as the world's most dangerous man, I know when we were working and training up at in Calgary, when I was up there working with Bret, he kept telling me, you got to be you. Don't be a pro wrestler. Be you. Go in there and do your shoot stuff. Do what you do. And then let them adjust to you, because they're professionals. They'll have to. They're pro wrestlers. You're a shooter. Go in and be you. And so he kept plugging that to me. And then I had the match with Vader, and I literally did that. We went in and we went against one another, and we shot on each other. It was a shoot, but it was a work shoot. We were aggressive. We were very stiff. But then it helped me understand from that point on where I needed to be working with other people and what I was going to be as a pro wrestler. And so Bret was a big part of helping me develop that character.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Bret, you were involved in the Stampede pay-per-view that's just really well remembered by fans. Like, what are your memories of it, and how weird is it as an American to just be booed so much because you're in Canada?
Yeah, it's funny too, because I think I was more Canadian than than the rest of the guys on my team, because I trained with Bret. I was part of that crew, I mean, there was a lot there. I spent a lot of time in Calgary, and then to be on the opposite side of that, I was like, wait a minute, that's my team.
I guess Pillman took your spot then as the guy, adopted Canadian guy.
Yes. And so it was, but it was fun. It was so loud. I mean, you could feel your skin shaking, like it was that loud. And just to be a part of that was just so amazing. I mean, I don't think I've ever been in front. I mean, I've been in a lot of crowds. I've been in front of over 100,000 people at the Tokyo Dome in Japan, and hear the yelling, the screaming. And I tell you what, that the crowd at the Stampede was just as loud as they were, and they had less people. But it was amazing to stand there and hear all that stuff and not even hardly do anything, and people were just screaming. And that was a fun time.
And when you started in WWE, how tapped in do you think that Vince McMahon was to what UFC was and how much it could help wrestling?
Yeah, Vince was definitely looking for something different because, again, during that time, he had lost all the superstars to WCW.
Mm-hmm.
They had all moved over to WCW. I believe it was Hunter Hearst. I believe not Shawn Michaels. Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, a few guys like that. They had all the superstars had left, and so when I got there, he had lost all his basically top guys. So he had guys like Stone Cold and Bret Hart they were still stars, but they weren't like at that level.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Vince thought in his mind that, and he's done this a lot, where he looks at what's going on in the world and what's popular, whether it be bodybuilding or football or whatever it is, and he tries to tap into that somehow. And I thought he saw at the time that me being, at that time, the world's most dangerous man, and I was a champion over in Japan. I was a champion here in the United States. It was definitely the world's most dangerous man. And so he figured that at the time when I had put out a feeler because I had to leave the UFC at the time because I wasn't able to make what I needed, I think at that time he's kind of saw an opportunity to be able to bring in this guy that was a legit fighter and try to somehow or another transform the wrestling organization into legit fighters,
Mm-hmm.
legit tough guys, and bringing that feel in. And I believe that when he had that thought and he brought me in, as you've seen how that time went, where I reffed Stone Cold and Bret Hart's match, it literally changed the face of wrestling on what people were used to seeing in the ring, with people flipping their hair back, making sure they had a good tan and that their makeup was on right and their hair was on right. Whereas it turned into this rough and tough attitude, kick your butt and not care who tells you when and what, you're just going to do it. And I think it changed pro wrestling at that time to where now all of a sudden he didn't need those guys that were like, eat your vitamins and tear your shirt up and drop a leg. And it was now about just beating the crap out of one another and putting on legitimate tough fights. And you watched it transform right in front of your eyes.
You have a world title match with Mitch Swan coming up. And what's it like to fight for the title again, nearly 20 years after being the first TNA champion?
Yeah, I think, that's been my goal all along. I didn't come in just to hang around and get in the ring and wrestle. I made a statement early on when I first came back that I was taking the wrestling world by storm, and I meant what I said. Wasn't going in just to collect a paycheck and just hang around. I came in with legit idea of being able to compete for that. I believed I could, and now I'm sitting at that door waiting to do that. Now, I don't have anything against Rich Swann. In fact, I kind of like the guy, but I have no idea why they would put him in the ring with me, because he weighs 160 pounds or something like that. Yeah, I guess he could run for a while, but sooner or later I'm going to get a hold of him. And I hope they have good insurance.
Do you enjoy facing more high-flying guys like Rich Swann, or do you prefer the kind of like grittier matches with an Austin or a Bret Hart that we were talking about earlier?
It doesn't matter to me, as long as it's challenging. And Rich Swann will challenge. There's no question he'll challenge me. But I just think it's a dangerous match for him. It really is a dangerous match because I can hurt him in so many ways. So I'm not gonna apologize for beating the crap out of him, and I may look like a really bad guy doing it, but this is the business we're in. Period.
Since you've been back in Impact, is there anything that you've learned from working with the current younger roster of talent?
Absolutely. The styles are different, right? You're talking about guys that are just from one move to the next move to the next move, just chain wrestling. It's just wham, 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 wham. As opposed to me, that's not what I do, right? So I got to figure out how I go in there and how I can disrupt that, right? To make it look right, to be able to do what I do, which is just beat the crap out of somebody And I'm not going to be doing it, and it's not going to look pretty. It's not going to be something that people are used to seeing it being smooth. It's going to be rough. It's going to be ugly, but it's going to hurt.
And after nearly 3 decades in the wrestling business, what kind of motivates you to keep going?
I've always had the mindset of always living life. You know, when I was younger, I didn't have the greatest life, right? I mean, I grew up poor. I was on the street for a lot of my younger life. I ended up in juvenile hall. I was in and out of group homes. Uh, People who became my parents owned the group home, got adopted when I was 18. So my 3/4 of my life, or about a quarter of my life, I wasn't able to live, right? I was surviving. So now that I am where I'm at, I'm living every day to the fullest. And I don't believe when you actually are successful and you get to a point to where you can say, oh, I've done it all. I'm just going to lay back and enjoy life. Well, what happens when you start laying back and enjoying life, you get depressed. You start getting old and you start dying. And so for me, my mindset is to challenge myself every day to be better, to try and challenge me to do more. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to live every single second of my life that I can. And I'm going to compete at a high level as long as I can. And when that doesn't happen, I will challenge myself to do something else. But I will never just sit back on the couch and be comfortable.
You know, we had The Undertaker do his final farewell last night, and he spent 30 years. And before that, there was, he really admitted that he was kind of looking for the perfect ending. Do you kind of understand and relate to that?
I don't, but I can understand it, right? I do. I understand it absolutely, but I don't see an ending. I don't want to see an ending. I, I deal with now, and I'll deal with tomorrow. That is as far as ahead as I will look, because right now I focus on how I can be better, how I can be better than I was yesterday, and then tomorrow is that is the farthest I'll look ahead to. And speaking of tomorrow, you know, that's the title match. And so that's my focus. That's what I focus on. And nothing else really matters. I don't think about what my age is. I don't think about, you know, what if this happens? What if that happens? I don't think about, you know, they shut us down. I don't think about any of that stuff. I think about what I'm doing now and what I'm going to do tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Having experienced so many companies, what's the best thing about working for Impact right now?
I think with every place that you go, the one thing that you look for is, and again, it's back to the challenge thing, right? I look for being challenged. Everywhere I go, I don't want to go somewhere where I'm going to be the guy. Like I literally just walk in and I'm it. I want to be challenged. And I felt like when I walked into Impact, I felt challenged right away. I was challenged with the script writing. I was challenged with the talent. I was challenged with the characters. And so for me, I felt good being there because it felt like, I got to up my level. I got to up my game. I got to keep pushing. I got to keep getting better in a good way, because I know if I do that, then everybody else has to do that. But they were already pushing me when I walked in the door. And so therefore I had to get myself to where I was pushing them, and I had to get to that point. And I'm at that point now where now I feel like I'm a part of that program where I'm actually pushing them and they're not just pushing me.
If you're successful against Mitch Swan, who would you most look forward to facing for or giving a title shot to?
It doesn't matter to me. All that matters is that I got Mitch Swan, and I'm not taking him lightly. I mean, I know this guy's slick. He's got a lot of sneaky things he can do. But in the end, man, it's just going to be about me beating him down. It's just making sure that I beat him down so bad that he can't move, and not being stupid. Like I got to make sure that I stay on top of my game, because he's not the champion. And look at his weight. Look at how he wrestles. He's very good at being just kind of a little deceptive, right? And being able to stay away from people's power and their strength. So it's going to be a challenge, but I believe this. Once I get a hold of him and I'm able to get him where I want him, then I'll be able to do what I need to do to have a good match, period.
What do you think has been your best match in Impact so far?
I've had a lot of good ones. I really have a lot of good ones. But like I said, I think that it's. I think the last one I just had with Eddie Edwards, I enjoyed that. I felt like that was my coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was starting to emerge as the old Ken Shamrock. The attitude, the character, the actual things that I do in the ring. I'm just being me. And I believe that that's what I'm going to be doing going forward, is that I'm going to each time start becoming more of me, of who Ken Shamrock is, and that's the world's most dangerous man.
Mm-hmm. What is the best advice that you give to the younger guys in the locker room?
I would, same thing I would say to myself is always challenge yourself to be better than you were the day before. And to, and we all do this, right? We all get knocked down. We all make mistakes. But when you make those mistakes, learn from them and then forget about them.